a slightly slow start. We were handling a couple of technical hiccups here, so thanks for your patience. We are so glad to offer this webinar this afternoon. I'm Patsy Egan and I direct Atlas, and one of the initiatives we have worked with many years, since 2013, is ACES, and we are glad to offer this winter webinar. A couple of announcements on your screen, nothing you haven't seen before. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide so you can see what we are offering today. So today is our ACES webinar, Speaking the Language of ACES and Helping Your Students Talk About Transferable Skills. And at the helm today is our ACES coordinator, Stephanie Summers. I'll let you take it away.
Hello, thanks Patsy, and thanks for your patience, everyone. Again, yeah, we had we'll be playing a video later this afternoon, and that kind of gave us a tiny bit of a scare here as we were doing our tech check. So thank you all for joining us. My name is Stephanie Summers. I'm the ACES coordinator, and I also work for Minneapolis Public Schools. And let's go to the next slide. We'll introduce our co-panelists today. So today's webinar is really special because we are joined by 3 outstanding guests. Today joining us, we have Paul Sears, who is a senior employment counselor and trainer for DEED and Career Force. We also have Alison Wilcox, who is the Career Pathways Coordinator at Metro South ABE, and Stephanie Beja, who is an Opportunity Navigator who works with Alison at Metro South. And we are going to be talking today about transferable skills, and we are so lucky to have these 3 experts joining us to share all of their experiences and work that they've done on this topic. And we can go to the next slide. So we have just a few objectives today. We want to understand what is meant by transferable skills and why they are important. We're going to identify the benefits of helping students to identify and talk about their transferable skills. Why would we focus on that in the classroom? And explain how the example activities support the development of ACES TIF, one of our 3 sets of ABE standards in Minnesota. And this is especially related to the developing a future pathway category. And then we'll also be sharing a number of ready-to-use resources today and helping you know where to locate them. Okay, next slide. So just in brief, what are transferable skills? Transferable skills are those skills that we see again and again in things like job postings. They're the kind of skills that a student can take from the classroom out into the real world and then from job to job. So basically, transferable skills are those skills that experts believe help someone to be successful no matter what career path they are on. So they apply to all professions, and they are really the foundation for professional success, irregardless of one's particular area of focus. And we can go to the next slide. So we're going to take a quick little poll if we're ready for that. Perfect. So we'll need to click to make the choices available. Because they're animated, Stephanie. So the choices here are, which of the following are transferable skills? Critical thinking, computer coding, or accounting? Okay. We've got 81% of you so far. 85%, 88, almost everyone's voted. It looks like accounting's not getting a lot of love. So I think most of you recognize that critical thinking was the transferable skill out of that group of 3. So we can go to the second poll here. Or I don't know if we want to share the results of the first one. Okay, so out of this group of 3 skills, we've got soldering, adaptability, and taking vitals. Which of those would be considered a transferable skill? Looks like there's not a lot of, no one's choosing, everyone's on the same page here. So 92% of you have voted, and adaptability is correct. That is the transferable skill. So we've got 2 more little options here. So we can do poll 3. And CPR, pipe fitting, or communication? What's the transferable skill? You guys are awesome at this. The answers are coming in fast and furious. 85% of you have voted. 88% of you have voted. 96% of you have voted. I think we could go ahead and share. Communication, yes, is the skill there that would be most transferable to any profession or field. And so we've got one more little quiz here, one more poll for you to respond to. Data entry, time management, or carpentry. Which of those would be a transferable skill? You guys are quick to respond here. 84% of you, 88% have voted at this point, 96%. And it was unanimous this time. Everyone recognized time management as the transferable skill. So thank you for participating there, getting warmed up for our webinar, and identifying what you know about transferable skills. And now we can just, click through real quickly here, and there we go. So taken from ACES, from the Transitions Integration Framework, or the TIF, a lot of our categories from the TIF are representative of these transferable skills. So we have effective communication, we have critical thinking, and then I know Gail just chatted out a link to our TIF at a glance in case anyone joining us today is maybe new to our field or to working in Minnesota and you don't have that document. So thanks for doing that, Gail. And then we can go to the next slide. And self-management and navigating systems are two more categories from the TIF that really focus on these transferable skills. Okay, and so if you're not so familiar with the TIF, I encourage you to take some time to look at it, maybe after today's webinar. And again, Gail shared a link where you can download a copy. And we can go to our next slide. So we're going to talk for just another minute or so before Paul comes on. We're going to talk about why is it important? Why would we bother spending time talking with our students about transferable skills? And one important reason is because more and more today, when people go in to do interviewing, they have to answer what's called situational or behavioral interview questions. And these kinds of questions ask the job seeker to explain a specific time or instance when you demonstrated one of these skills. And so there's sort of a formula that you can use when you answer these questions. You talk about the problem you faced, you explain your solution, and then you include what the benefit was to your employer, or how it was a positive outcome. And so we'll look on the next slide at an example of one of these questions and kind of a right and a wrong answer. So tell me about a time when you had to collaborate with a coworker who was difficult to work with. And so the wrong answer would be, I had to work with a really difficult programmer. And eventually I got transferred to another department, and then I was able to get some real work done. A better answer, if the student is able to talk about his or her transferable skills, would be to focus on teamwork, for example, and problem solving. So if you look at the solution on the top where it says the right answer, I took the time to learn about his personal life. It turned out he was going through a tough divorce. Once I got to know him, he was actually a great coworker. So being able to talk about one's problem solving and communication skills there would help to answer a question like this. And we can see another example on the next slide. So again, describe a situation where you saw a problem and took steps to fix it. The wrong answer would be, I saw one of our ladders had a broken step and marked it for repairs. A better answer might be, our rechargeable forklifts had two different plugs. If you use the wrong one, you could wreck a $3,500 battery. I added zip ties as cord shorteners so you could only reach the right outlet. We haven't lost a battery since. And so This, of course, is an example of using problem solving, explaining what the problem was and what steps the worker took to address and solve the problem, and giving students opportunities in class to talk about times that they've solved a problem and helping them recognize when they do that, they are in fact using that skill of problem solving. Could be great at an interview so that they're not thrown for a loop or have to spend a long time thinking when asked a question like this. So we have one more example on the next slide. Tell me about a time you reached a big goal at work. So goal settings, one of the activities under the self-management section in the TIF. We have some suggested activities around setting goals. How did you reach it? So the right answer would be the company wanted to double our rafting guests for this summer. I put together a 3-part plan with a full color calendar, social media campaign, and found media outreach. We not only hit our goal, we got a 50% budget increase for the following year. So talking about what the goal was, what steps the person took to reach that goal, and then what the result was of having successfully reached the goal. The wrong answer might be we had to double our clientele. I designed a new marketing strategy we hadn't tried before. We reached our goal. You'll notice the first answer is much more specific, focusing on a specific instance, a specific goal, and the specific steps. And later in the webinar, we will look at a goal setting activity you might be able to do with your students to help them prepare for a question like this. Okay, so this was just a little bit of background, and on the next slide, we are going to introduce Mr. Paul Sears, who is so kind to donate his time to be with us today. And Paul's going to talk about what you see on the screen, this Transferable Skills Matrix, and how we might use it with our students. So thank you so much, Paul.
Hello. As an employment counselor, I know that transferable skills are among the most important assets any person has to move from the point of a job layoff into new employment. When people from any industry ask, how can I possibly find a new job in this kind of economy during a pandemic? I tell them transferable skills are their secret weapon. Both despite and because of the economic effects of COVID, healthcare remains one of the most promising job markets. Healthcare and social assistance is far and away in the 7-county metro area, the largest employing industry sector. With January being Healthcare Month, this is a great time to look at how the skills and backgrounds of restaurant and hospitality workers favorably establish them as candidates for new jobs in healthcare. Okay, we are on the correct side, so I'll keep rolling. As this slide indicates, many people who lost jobs at restaurants, hotels, and other hospitality employers have the transferable skills used in entry-level healthcare positions. From the matrix in this screen, you can see the fields to which skills of such occupations as waitress or waiter, bartender, restaurant cook, or dishwasher are relevant. A waitress or waiter, for example, typically has the customer and personal service, social perceptiveness, and active listening abilities needed as a personal care or home health aide, as a nursing or medical assistant, or as an occupational or physical therapy assistant. A bartender likely has many of those skills and the reading comprehension skills called for to become a social or human services assistant or a dietetic or pharmacy technician. A restaurant cook certainly has the time management and much of the knowledge needed to cook in a hospital or serve as a dietetic technician. What does being a dishwasher have to do with being a personal aide, janitor, or cleaner, or to take a job in a hospital cafeteria? Active listening skills are among them. My DEED colleague, Jessica Miller of my department's Labor Market Information Office, wrote this. Minnesota healthcare employers are seeking compassionate and caring people to fill a multitude of positions, both patient-facing and non-patient-facing. Many Minnesotans looking for work now already have the skills to do many of these healthcare positions. People who think they need extensive education and training to restart their career in healthcare may be surprised to learn that sometimes the only thing needed to get in the door is the passion for doing good and the ability to pass the background check required by the Minnesota Department of Health. The rest of the training is often provided and paid for by the employer. There are numerous jobs available in healthcare facilities today, using a variety of skills and talents. Healthcare facilities not only are in need of certified nursing assistants, nurses, and occupational therapists, they also need computer skills, math skills for accountants, and accounts receivable, and billing professionals, as well as those skilled in culinary arts, dining services, recreation, and maintenance, to name but a few. Many of the skills and talents developed by working in restaurants, hospitality, leisure, retail, and service-related employment, as well as other employment sectors, transfer well into a career in healthcare. Good customer service skills top the list, along with being dependable. Compassion and communication skills, such as listening, are also very important. Every single role in healthcare has a bit of care in it. Not everyone in healthcare is a direct caregiver. There are many healthcare positions that are not specifically patient-facing. But every healthcare employee should have a heart for healthcare, because whether patient-facing or not, all work in healthcare affects patients in some way, which creates an impact on patients' lives. Next slide, please. What can your adult students who come from a wide variety of food, hospitality, and other fields gauge and take stock of their qualifications for a new position in healthcare, as well as qualifications for other fields, is a skills assessment tool that we provide. The next several slides show positions from online tools at my department's website, careerforceminnesota.com, careerforcemn.com. You can follow the directions in the slides, or as an alternative, the quickest route on this website, careerforcemn.com, to access these tools from the homepage of careerforcemn.com is to click on Online Tools and then click Skills Assessment. I'll repeat that. From the homepage, careerforcemn.com, you click on Online Tools, then click Skills Assessment. And that takes you to our Skills Matcher tool. Next slide, please. As this PowerPoint slide shows, individuals do a self-rating of their own levels of proficiency. It is necessary for that person, and this is important, to be honest and realistic regarding their true abilities. For example, in this and the following slides, you can see that one skill area noted and rated is that of administration and management, and you see that at the bottom of the slide here. To what level is the individual capable? Are they at a beginner, at the basic level, skilled, advanced, or are they an expert? Are they proficient so far as to be able to simply complete a timesheet, more advanced so they could monitor progress on a project? Or are they at the expert level and could manage a $10 million company? Next slide, please. The Skills Matcher tool goes on to rate the user's proficiency in a total of 40 different skill areas, including such wide-ranging areas as customer service, helping people, clerical work, computers and electronics, body coordination, memorization, public speaking, writing, math skills, foreign languages, chemistry, production and processing, mechanical skills, and about 30 more. Could that student repack an item back into its original box, supervise a production assembly line, or maintain a nationwide vaccination distribution center? Could they monitor kids at a hospital daycare playground, understand the impact of addiction on human responses, or treat a person with severe mental illness? After this 40-item questionnaire, our Skills Matcher tool displays suggested occupations based upon that individual, that student's skills. The student then selects from her or his career goals based on their own particular preferences and aspirations, up to 12 different occupations, for which that student would then benefit from guidance on how to explore those careers. At that point, as part of their career guidance, the individual or student would likely benefit from professional guidance in the form of job search coaching, job placement assistance, or advice regarding possibly needed additional training. Next slide, please. The final portion of my presentation is a separate PDF you have received, which is entitled How to Do a Thorough Skills Inventory. I don't know, Stephanie, if they have access to that PDF. If not, we can collect names and send them that PDF separately, although they may have already received it.
Yep, thank you, Paul. So I think Gail just chatted out a link to the PDF of the activity that you shared.
Excellent.
Yes.
Next slide, please. My last slide is from an exercise that can be done in a single hour individually or with a group. The opening quotation on your screen at the top is from Richard Bowles, who is, as you probably know, the author of what, in my opinion, has been, since the 1970s, the single best primer on career development and job seeking published as a book. What color is your parachute? And I'll read the quotation. There is a rich reward awaiting the job seeker who will spend the time to figure out their skills. It has been said the typical American spends more time planning their vacations than planning their career. As I stated, this activity could be done in a single hour. But to do it and your students' future careers justice, I would recommend they devote something more than an hour. In my career classes, I write the number 3 on a whiteboard, and then I ask my groups if 3 time units were the investment you'd recommend to a friend, family member, or for yourself to assess themselves and research career options, would you advise spending 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months on career exploration? So 3 hours would not be too much for a student to spend doing the activities in this PDF. But in reality, 3 weeks or 3 months devoted to self-assessment and outside research of the world of work would be even better. So what you're good at is not enough. If you have the motivation and enthusiasm to find job openings, land the job, and then succeed at it, you need to identify and use your favorite and marketable skills as well. The model at the bottom of this slide, you can see, involves what you are good at, what you love to do, as well as what employers rather will pay you to do. Of course, in this activity, in this seminar, your transferable skills laid out on pages 3 and 4 are the great news for anyone seeking to identify those talents which have legs, which can travel from one field to another. And at that point, I will close and pass it back to my colleagues.
Thank you, Paul. But actually, I think you have 2 more slides. There was this image of the home health aides, and did you want to speak to that real quickly, or should we?
I'll simply use my time, if there's any remaining, to say that further on in this PDF, you'll notice that there are 3 different categories of skills. Self-management skills, which are actually a person's personality traits, the real reason that people get hired. And there are also job content skills, all the knowledge, nuts and bolts of performing a particular job. The most important in our webinar today are those transferable skills, which this model lays out in 7 different groups that we call critical and leadership skills, which we call in charge, mechanical skills, people skills, dealing with data and information, communication skills, in other words, using words and ideas, and creative skills such as photography or graphic design. I lastly want to salute all of you teachers. Your skills really are those of a performer in front of a classroom on stage. And it's your enthusiasm and energy which is transferable to other fields. And it's your enthusiasm and energy that your students will remember long after everything else is forgotten. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you showing us a few easy resources from the Career Force website. That Skill Matcher was great. And everyone should have access to the lesson that Paul was talking about to help students identify their transferable skills. And like he said, what a great investment of time for you to try that out in the classroom. So again, thank you so much, Paul. And now we are going to invite our other 2 speakers to join us. It is my great pleasure to introduce Alison Wilcox. Again, Alison works for Metro South, and Alison, different hats she wears there. But Alison is going to talk about all of the amazing work she has helped to coordinate over at Metro South around this idea of transferable skills. So thank you for joining us, Alison. And I think we're on the next slide for Alison to start talking.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I thought that was just a great presentation from Paul, and I would like to, I will be talking and building off of Paul's idea as well in terms of what we can do to help our students recognize their transferable skills. But first, I'd like to kind of just back up just for a minute and talk about some of the circumstances of why transferable skills are important and why it's important to help our students really figure out what they excel in. So as we know, there are a lot of circumstances that affect all of us in terms of changing jobs and careers. It's very common, as we know, for people to change jobs and careers several times in their lifetime. I think I probably changed around at least 8 times, I suppose, since college. So, if you think back to your journey in your careers, I imagine many people changing careers to get where you are today. Although there are some people that do stay in a career and kind of advance in one area. That does happen. But for most people, I think we tend to change careers because our lives change, our interests might change, and opportunities change. There's, in particular right now, we have students in ABE who, many of our students do not have much work experience. So there are some students, they actually might have had work experience if they had come from another country. And that's something we definitely want to ask them. But in terms of if people coming here, maybe some of the younger students or students who don't have as much English, they might not have had as much work experience. So we definitely want to figure out how they can identify any skills that they have. There are a lot of students who have been laid off, as we know. There are a large number of students who might have worked in even the hospitality industry, who might be unemployed right now. And so that is something that is pretty common right now. As Paul had mentioned about hospitality careers and being able to identify which of the hospitality skills might transfer over, actually any of the skills transfer into healthcare, for example, since that's high demand. Another situation is needing a better paying job or career. There are, students, if you have a baby, you have another child, you want to go back to school, just like anyone, there's always people looking for better paying jobs. The next area would be perhaps someone loses interest in their career. It just doesn't fit them anymore, or they're just kind of burned out. I know jobs in like warehouses, there can be a high burnout rate because it's so, there's so much repetition, and it's just can be exhausting in those types of positions. Another example is like a work schedule doesn't fit family life anymore. So for example, some of our students need to go pick up their children from daycare or from school early. And so maybe that job that they have or career doesn't quite fit anymore, or they just need more flexibility in a job. So those are some circumstances, but most importantly, we need to the importance of knowing transferable skills is really important for answering, as Stephanie had mentioned, those behavioral interview questions, and also adding them effectively to a resume. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how at ABE can we help our students identify and market their transferable skills? Well, first of all, who's involved in this? We're lucky at Metro South in Bloomington to have a Career Navigator Her name is Stephanie, and she's going to be speaking very shortly. She is, I think, about our eighth career navigator, and we apply for a navigator each year through the Minnesota Opportunity Core site. And so I put a little link on this slide. You can see if you are considering applying, and there is a fee each year, but it has been such a great thing for our site to apply and have navigators. If ABE does not have a career navigator, oftentimes I've heard of, for example, I know that Hopkins has volunteers who work with students, and oftentimes it's great to have a volunteer who has a lot of work experience to be able to help students. It's just such a great opportunity if you can get a volunteer or two to help. By the way, there is the Literacy Minnesota does have volunteer navigator training. I just want to shout that out. I'm going to put that right in the chat here. I'm not sure if that went through. I guess it didn't, but I can get that to you later. So besides volunteers, there are counselors, academic counselors, oftentimes are with the diploma programs, GED at ABE. The counselors oftentimes can help our students at these transition points and to prepare for post-secondary or in particular employment. And of course, teachers. Teachers are kind of our bottom line contact, right? Where we try more and more. I know that teachers are trying to integrate ACES TIF skills, and it might be appropriate under the topic of jobs or employment to have a mini lesson about transferable skills and helping students identify those. Now, so we covered the who, now it's the how. How can we work with our students? So one is to work with them one-on-one through a career appointment with a navigator or with a volunteer. Or you could possibly do a pair share kind of lesson in a class, as I mentioned. Another idea is to have a career website where you have kind of a page on employability and transferable skills, and just kind of adding some resources in there for students to go online anytime to access videos, checklists, and things like that. So even if we don't have time in class right now, perhaps they can go there and learn about it, especially through video, I think. And finally, another idea that we had, I worked with our navigator, Stephanie, and she has created some mini lessons. And one of the topics is about transferable skills, and that's what she's going to show you in a moment. And so we're very proud of that and very grateful for her work. Okay, next slide, please. So again, I'm just going to show, this is just a link that you can click on if you want to see at Metro South, we have a page called Employability Skills. And of course, they're also known as soft skills or transferable skills. They're kind of interchangeable. You can see an example of what the page looks like. We have a lot of videos there. And I'm going to talk about in the next slide or two some of the transferable skills resources that we have on this page as well. So next slide. Okay, I would like to play this video until about 3 minutes, 30 seconds. And keep in mind while you're watching the video, how you can use this video possibly with your students. So more of those intermediate to advanced students. Just keep that in mind as you're watching it. And so let's watch this video now. Thank you.
Welcome to What Employers Want, Marketing Your Transferable Skills. When I meet with students, I sometimes get questions like, what are employers looking for? And what do I have to offer from my major? Well, actually, you have a lot to offer. And one of the things that employers most look for and that you do have to offer are transferable skills. That's what we're talking about today. We'll first talk about what they are and why they're valuable. We'll talk about how to identify your own, then how to market them, and finally give you some resources and next steps. Transferable skills are also called soft skills, and basically they're skills that transfer from one job or industry to another. They're not unique like Spanish or coding in Python would be. Rather, they're more general, yet really essential. For example, having strong communication skills or having strong organizational skills. Employers value these no matter what industry the employer is in, because they're essentially the building blocks of an effective workplace. You develop these skills in a variety of experiences in your life as long as you're actively participating. Here are a few transferable skills. And if you look, you can see, I'm sure, some skills that you have and probably have developed in classes that you take. Sometimes folks say that they're not getting value from their classes because they don't see how what they're learning applies to the workplace. Well, actually, the transferable skills you're developing apply directly to the workplace, and you can probably see some of them here. There are probably hundreds of transferable skills that are valued by employers, but some more than others, of course. And each year we survey employers to find out what they consider to be the most important skills for them at that time. Here are the results of our 2019 survey. Hopefully you can see some there that you feel that you have. The key is to know how to market them. To begin, though, you need to first really drill down and have a good sense of what your skills are. So in this exercise, let's try to do that. Look at the list and see which attributes or skills you currently have. Then think about which of your classes or outside experiences have helped you develop them. And once you're aware of those, you'll go on to demonstrate them in your resume. The way you do that is you focus on using strong verbs that are descriptive enough to point to or actually define the skill itself. So if you look at this example, you'll see that interacted regularly points to having communication skills, probably collaboration skills, and other interpersonal skills that are important. Coordinated and managed points to organizational skills and leadership. Designed and implemented points to having creativity as well as initiative. So by using strong, clear verbs and within a bullet point that's also detailed, you're able to communicate your transferable skills to employers. That's what you want to be focusing on. So we have some great resources.
Okay, I think we're back. Thank you, Stephanie, for playing that video. The video, hopefully it was beneficial for you because I found it pretty clear, and it would be appropriate possibly in classes, or you can adapt that video and create your own slideshow similar to this. This is from the Career Center at UC Berkeley. And the video is in the collection of resources that you should have access to. And the link is right here on the slideshow as well. And I think someone could chat out the link there as well, if you have time. Okay, the transferables checklist. This is another resource that I've kind of run across. It is from Australia, I believe. So there is some terminology in there that was foreign to me, just a tiny bit. So you might have to adapt this slightly, but for the most part, this is a very good checklist to use with students. It is divided into the different areas, communication, time management, things like that. There's a link here that you could click on to view that. I think Gail could also put that in the chat as well if she has time. So basically, it is very helpful for students to look at a checklist and be able to identify their strengths, their top transferable skills. And this is just one of the resources that you can use or you can adapt, I'm sure. So I wanted to just cover that. And the next page, please. And finally, the last of the 3 resources I'm going to show you today is called the Transferable Skills Inventory. Again, I got this from the UC Berkeley site. My daughter went there for her undergrad and master's. So I somehow got, I think this was emailed to me and I'm like, this is perfect timing. So I'm happy to share this. And I think as long as we're giving credit, we can use this as long as we give credit to where it's from. So this list, this inventory also is very, very good. The instructions they have there ask students to read the list, underline the skills that they've used, and then circle the top 3 or 5 of those underlined skills that you feel are strongest or you enjoy using. However, I would probably adapt this list a little bit and just use colored highlighters with ABE students. I think that would be more appropriate to use highlighters hopefully if we're in person, or even if they're at home and they have highlighters. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how can you use the video, the checklist in the inventory? So here's just some ideas I thought of quickly. And one is, it's very appropriate, I think, for our diploma, GED, career pathway, or career prep students, kind of that intermediate to advanced student. You could certainly adapt some of these. I would be comfortable showing the video for higher level students and discussing the video a little bit. Of course, you would want to introduce the idea of transferable skills a little bit beforehand. Also, with the lists, the 2 lists that I gave you, the checklist and the inventory, you would want to review some of the difficult vocabulary terms first on the list before you would start asking them to identify their skills. And the last idea is to perhaps show your own example of how you identify your skills and just give them a model to follow and just kind of talk through that so students can see what you're doing and how you do it. And then you can support your students in doing their own individually. Once the students identify their top transferable skills that they feel are their strongest, you could also do some other things with that. And one is possibly a goal setting exercise. One idea is to identify 1 or 2 skills that they want to improve and kind of create like a SMART goal around that. And but I noticed Stephanie had used that goal setting is very valued with employers. So any type of goal setting with a SMART goal sheet is very good training as well for employment and being able to talk about how people can set goals. So having them actually set goals and seeing if they're meeting their goals is, again, a transferable skill that's very valued in the workplace. Another idea is to have a reflective writing assignment. For example, one idea is to identify 1 or 2 skills that are strong and or weak, and then possibly why, kind of reflect on that, or possibly think of some ways that they can showcase their skills. Another idea is resume action verbs. This is actually a link in blue, and we can, maybe someone could put that in the chat. It's a great list of action verbs in each category that will actually be really helpful when people are doing resumes. Another idea is to put those transferable skills in the summary section or the skills area of a resume. They could also put it in a 30-second elevator speech and practice that, write it, and then practice it with a partner. Or they could also practice interviews using and knowing how to highlight their transferable skills. And I think, personally, I think it's great to be able to label those transferable skills in those behavioral questions and when people are responding. For example, I was able to respond to a difficult situation at work by being very organized and prioritizing what I need to do. And then maybe adding a little bit of detail to that as well, as Stephanie had mentioned. So those are just some ideas that you can, once students identify their skills, they can do some of these things. Maybe you have more ideas. Okay, next slide. Oh, I think I am finished, and I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie Summers, I guess, or Stephanie Beja. I would like to.
That's great. Thank you so much, Alison. You just took us through so many amazing ideas, and I really appreciate that Alison not only shared those 3 fabulous resources with us, the video, the checklist, and the skills inventory, but that she also took the time to think of ways we might be able to use them in class, because I think that can be the tricky part. We can share our resources, but if people tend to use them more if they have ideas about how they could use them. And you gave us some great ideas that could be used pretty much immediately with our students. So thank you so much, Alison. And now I am so happy to introduce Stephanie Beja. Stephanie is an opportunity navigator and an AmeriCorps volunteer. I love that Stephanie works for AmeriCorps. I was an AmeriCorps member when I was young, and I remember it as a great experience. So Stephanie is going to talk a little bit about the resources she has put together for her students at Metro South, and also take us through a lesson. I think it's a newly unveiled lesson. So thank you, Stephanie, and I will let you take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So as the other Stephanie said, I am doing an AmeriCorps service year in the Minnesota Opportunity Corps, and I was placed at Metro South, which was a really great place to be serving. And so I really enjoy working at Metro South. Alison did not force me to say that. And then before I show my mini lesson, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what I do. So I am an opportunity navigator, and I'm really kind of the main resource for students who have anything career related, whether it be building a resume, how to find jobs, preparing for an interview, how to find vocational training, thinking about community college, anything career related. If they don't know what path to pursue, I can also help them with interest tests to help them kind of decide what career path to follow. And so on the screen, you'll see I do one-on-one meetings with students. Students can reach out to me directly. Oftentimes I found teachers are very helpful with connecting students to me. And then also, as mentioned, I've been creating various mini lessons. So kind of giving, so this is something I would give to Metro South teachers, kind of an a la carte menu where they can pick what mini lesson they'd like me to do in their class. So outside of transferable skills, I also have mini lessons so far on resumes, values, the Holland Theory, Holland Code, community college, and I'm working on lots more.
I'm here. Mama, love you.
And then finally, the last thing on there is a coffee chat, which I started in November. And it's just an informal space for students to drop in and talk about how maybe the job process is going or anything like that. And on the right, you can see the flyer that I made, and I created a sort of fun little tagline: coffee, careers, and camaraderie. And so today I just wanted to take you through the transferable skills mini lesson that I made. I have yet to do this in a class, but I will be doing this, presenting this on Wednesday. So we'll see how it goes. And then you can see the learning objectives for students, know what common transferable skills employers want, and being able to identify their own transferable skills. Oh, and also this is helpful for lower ESL students as well. So the first activity I have students do is trying to get into the mindset of the employer. If you could only ask someone one question, what would you ask to know if they are the right fit for the job? So it can be, sometimes students often think like, why are they asking me these questions? So trying to think from the employer's perspective. And then this next part, I just break up transferable and skills. So just giving them a definition. And then I go over the different skills employers want. So problem solving, leadership, communication, adaptability, teamwork, and computer. And the last part with computer, that was kind of just an easier word to use, but really when I say computer, I'm more talking about digital literacy skills and just having kind of knowing how to use Microsoft Suite, Google Docs, these sort of skills that transfer no matter what industry you're in. And then also we're asking students, where do you get transferable skills from? I think one of the things I really try to emphasize in this mini lesson is that transferable skills are not something that is you get in the workplace, but rather throughout life, especially since students that I work with oftentimes may not have a lot of work experience, or they may also feel like the previous job roles that they've had weren't really real jobs. So really trying to get them to think broadly. Yeah. So the first half was defining transferable skills, being able to know where these skills come from. And then the next half is helping students identify transferable skills. And so the next slide, I'll actually be mapping out a role, the actions, and what skill does that relate to. So here I chose something neutral, like family member. So again, trying to think outside of the workplace, like a normal everyday role, such as family member, and how can you identify transferable skills in that role? So if you're a family member, everyone gets assigned chores that they have to complete around the house. And so since everyone is doing their own part to maintain a cleanly home, that is teamwork. And also, if you're doing dishes, you can't leave dishes for multiple days, so you have to manage your chores with all of your other activities. So that would be an example of time management. And then the next one, created family schedule for sharing the bathroom in the morning. In our house, hot water is a hot commodity in the morning and can cause tension between me and my brother in the morning. So creating a schedule was really helpful. And so that shows organizational skills, also communication, being able to say what it is you want and finding a balance between everyone's different needs. So after I give this example of family members, I then ask students to brainstorm what are 2 transferable skills they have gained from being a student at Metro South. And then we would do a share activity where they just tell if they are comfortable. And so, and then putting these transferable skills on your resume, including them in like job descriptions is maybe something I would do more in one-on-one meetings, whereas for a mini lesson, I would more just focus on just the skills section of a resume. And then has previously been talked about behavioral questions. And I actually have some example behavioral questions that I would show the students. So tell me about a time you had to work on a team to reach a goal. And then also the transferable skill that's being assessed here would be teamwork skills. And tell me about a time when you failed. I think this is one of the dreaded interview questions. So I wanted to do this in a mini lesson to help students understand why employers would be asking this question. And really it's about adaptability and motivation. How did you work through that failure? So this was really brief. This is my mini lesson that I will be doing on Wednesday. And depending on how it goes, I will adapt more. And this is accessible as well, so everyone has access to this mini lesson if you would like to use it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was just an incredible amount of work, that lesson you put together. as I added in the chat, I really loved that very concrete example you gave of a way for a student with maybe little work experience outside of the home to talk about some of their problem solving skills and communication skills with the with doing things in the house, how you solved a problem. So thank you so much. That was great. And let's go forward a slide. So I want to say this webinar was a different experience for me in order to bring so many wonderful guests in to speak with us. We had to really cut down on some of the interactivity and opportunities for you all to share ideas, although some of you have been sharing in the chat. I especially want to draw people's attention to Ralu shared a resource a little while ago to help homemakers who might be trying to re-enter the workforce talk about their transferable skills, and I put that in the chat. I know Laura's been making some comments, but right now, before we end, maybe someone else would like to, a couple more people might like to put something in the chat, something they might take away from this webinar, something it's made them think about, an idea for using one of those resources in the classroom. I always think I get so many good ideas seeing what others share. So if you can, put an example in the chat of a way you might try to bring transferable skills in, a discussion, using the video, using the checklist, a writing assignment. And we can go to the next slide and I'll close out with some reminders, but please do feel free to use the chat. I'd love to see some ideas. So as far as our updates and reminders go, I recently added a resource to the ACES resource library, and the resource is called Teaching Skills That Matter. It's a very vast resource. It has a number, it's a project through OCTAE. So it's from the federal level. It is a project that's being rolled out across various states. We will be doing a session on teaching the skills that matter at the end of this month at Language and Literacy. But I put it here because, so I see your question, Kim, maybe we'll come to that in just a second. So this resource, they identify 9 what they called central skills, and those are listed on the screen there. And so they have lessons, there's 25 ready to use lessons that you can download by going to the website, which is hosted through links. And you can look at these resources and use those lessons in your classroom. And each lesson was designed to help students really start to use these central skills like communication, critical thinking, problem solving. So I just wanted to share this with you. It was announced in a recent newsletter article. The resource is available on the Atlas website. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And Kim, I don't know if anyone in the webinar today works in corrections and might have ideas for how to help ex-offenders. I do know, maybe it's MCIS. I have seen on, maybe it's iSeek or My Next Move, one of those websites I thought did have a section that helped ex-offenders work on their resumes and some language around talking about how to talk around or about their incarceration. So that might be something to look at. Ralu says Career One Stop and ONET have some things. Yeah, so that's where I've seen that kind of stuff too on some of those websites. So thanks for sharing that. And that's a great question, Kim. So just as we end today, a reminder that the Language and Literacy Institute's coming up at the end of this month, January 28th and 29th. Registration is available from the Atlas events page, and you can see that there on the screen. Then looking ahead, there will be a spring all regional conference on March 5th, rather than North and South regionals. We're still all virtual through this spring for Atlas events. And then there will be a second ACES webinar, the spring webinar, that will be on Tuesday, April 21st at the same time. Gail already chatted out a link to the evaluation and the And by completing the evaluation is how you access your CEUs. And one of the eval questions actually has to do with, do you have particular topics you would like shared or talked about during that spring webinar? Today's topic came about because Alison posted that great matrix resource in one of the Schoology groups that Atlas hosts, and I saw it and made me start thinking about what a great topic transferable skills would be. So we do get our ideas for webinars from all of you, so I'd love to see what people had in mind for the spring. And a couple people have responded, I think again to Kim. Teresa says they use MCIS with most of their individuals in the Department of Correction. I noticed that Career One Stop had a link for criminal offenses. However, these are all great ideas that I plan to share with our education and reentry staff. Thank you, Teresa. And then Randy says the Career Force Center has a workshop called A New Leaf. Yes, workshop. Great. And you can go to the Career Force Center and I know click on their calendar of events to find ways to register for their workshops. So that would be a really great one. Or you could get in touch with someone from Career Force to find out when that's being offered. Teresa says it's not available in all communities. However, now that it is, I think more of their trainings are online, more of their workshops have gone online. I wonder if someone could access it no matter where they are in the state. And then Alison just chatted out something else. It looks like it's a link to help ex-offenders create a resume. Kim, you know what? I can contact Paul. I'm going to contact him anyways to follow up after this. I could ask him if he knows about that New Leaf workshop and I could let you know the next time it's available. Okay. So it is 4:16. Forgive us for being a little bit late today. We did have a little, I guess my computers have two different times. So sorry, I guess we do have another minute depending on where I look here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for bearing with us at the beginning when we had a few problems. I'm sorry we didn't have as much interactivity today. Again, that was to let you hear from our wonderful guests. I want to thank Alison and Paul and Stephanie Beja so much for joining us. Please do reach out to us. You see our emails on the screen and they've been chatted out as well. We'd be happy to answer your questions. And Kim, I will follow up with you about the resource for ex-offenders, okay? So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And a big thank you to Stephanie for her continued work as ACES coordinator and to all of the presenters and those of you who contributed in the chat, and a big virtual high five to Gail for all of her tech work behind the scenes. We'll stop the recording now, but we'll also hang out for a couple of minutes if people have additional questions.